What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Metalcore Nerds. I'm your host, Sean Mott, and this is the Moon Knight After Show. We're talking all about Moon Knight Episode 3, and I have my co-host with me, who's going to be my Marc to my Steven, I guess. You're probably tougher than me, so I'll make you Marc.
I
Mike,
appreciate that.
how are you
Hey,
doing?
what's up? I'm good, man. I stopped at the mall yesterday. I grabbed my Moon Knight shirt. There was a bunch of different items there. It was really exciting. So I'm in a good mood and ready to talk some Moon Knight.
Hell yeah, shout out to Hot Topic. We're
Yes.
not we're not sponsored. My wife just works there.
Yes.
Maybe one day. Maybe one day. That'd be nice.
Hell yeah.
That'd be a nice one. I guess I kind of am by relation, not by
Yeah, by
podcast.
association. It is crazy though because because I walked and there's a big Moon Knight poster in the window
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
like to think about where the show is now in terms of popularity, to just see that out in the real world is super cool.
Yeah, it's super sick. Even when we were at Disney, they had like a bunch of they had like billboards in Hollywood studios and like the
Yeah.
flags on the poles with Moon Knight, and like one was the Moon Knight, one was the Mr. Knight. It was super dope. I can only
Hell
imagine
yeah.
how surreal it is for like longtime Moon Knight fans to
Oh
be
yeah.
like, he's everywhere. Like everyone knows who Moon Knight is now. You know what I mean? It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of people are kind of receptive to that. That it's like totally new to them. But I guess in fairness, most of the MCU has been new to a lot of people because no one
Yeah.
gave a fuck about Iron Man in 2008. Let's
No,
be let's be
they
let's be
really didn't.
let's be real here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they haven't even
Yeah.
done like, I mean, besides Spider Man, of course, they haven't. We don't have the mutants yet, and that's like the biggest. They would be the like other most popular Marvel characters besides Spider
Yeah.
Man. Like they're in the main zeitgeist of everything now. Kind of all these, you know, B and C and even lower class characters are now in the forefront. And I think that's what they've done a really good job with the MCU is taking all these characters you probably didn't think would be in the Avengers. Even the Avengers weren't even big. Like the Justice League was
No.
way bigger than way bigger than
Yeah.
the Avengers, but now
Absolutely.
the Avengers overshadowed Justice League. It's
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's a testament to them that they've been able to do something like that. It's sometimes I sit back and think about that and I'm like, wow, that's really crazy that they did that.
No, that's a great point, and you're on a roll there with because the Avengers really weren't popular like that, especially Iron Man. Everyone knows Iron Man now, but no one
Yeah, I
no one
mean,
cared about Iron Man. You're absolutely right. He's like such a fringe character. People knew the Black Sabbath song Iron Man way more than Iron Man himself.
right,
So
exactly.
they can blow these guys up. And talking to people in my day-to-day life that I didn't think were into comic books or would know who Moon Knight is, and they're telling me oh, there's a show I've been watching called Moon Knight. I'm like, yeah, I know, that's awesome.
I love
Yeah.
Moon Knight.
Yes. So it's good to see.
Yeah, it's great. I'm happy to see it. It seems like most of the reaction I've seen online is positive. There is some negative, but there's gonna be a negative with anything.
Yeah.
Um I don't personally agree with their criticisms because I'm still very much enjoying the show.
Yeah.
I just think this episode dove deeper into characters and kind of. I mean, there's a lot in this episode. It was jam packed with a ton of stuff that happens,
Yeah.
but it definitely adds more to Layla's character. It adds more in the dynamic between Marc and Steven. It adds more to Arthur Harrow. It's some cool shit, and I'm digging it. And I know I've been hyping up episode 4 really hard, but
Yeah.
seriously, I cannot wait until everyone sees it next week
Oh man,
because
I'm hyped.
I know there's a moment that you're going to be so fucking hyped on. You're going to be like, I
Yeah.
cannot believe they're doing this. Holy fuck. That's all I'm going
Yeah.
to say. You'll know when it happens. You're like, this is it. And it's
Yes.
awesome. And again, it's a lot of Marvel shows have a thing where it's like, I don't really know how this is going to end in different ways, but this one is different to the fact where like I literally have no idea where it's going. There was a TV spot that kind of hinted on, I mean, you kind of imagine where episode 4 ends of somehow it's got to get back to normal, I guess, without giving too much away. So you kind
Yeah.
of figure some of this stuff happens. It didn't give too much away, but I'm still wondering how it's gonna, what the last 2 episodes are gonna be like. I'm very
Yeah.
very interested to see what those are. But halfway through, halfway
Yeah.
through
It's
the show,
crazy how fast we're zooming through this show. 6 episodes
yeah,
is not a lot, even though they're long episodes, and it makes me wonder because of the show's extremely popular and critically
yeah,
acclaimed so far. So selfishly, I definitely want them to do more, depending on where they take it. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely think he'll still be a big part of the MCU moving forward for sure. I am
Yeah,
wondering, we did get an MCU reference in this episode. It's a very small one, but I do wonder if there will be anything, like even if it's just in the post credit scene or something that kind of alludes to the Midnight Suns in the future or something
that'd
like
be
that.
awesome.
Kind of
Yeah,
like the Eternals after credit scene was with Dane Whitman and the voice of Blade. I'm wondering if we'll get something like that, or I mean, they're in Egypt now, but it started in London where Dane Whitman is, and that's where we last saw, I would assume, Dane Whitman and Blade approaching him. So it would be interesting to see
yeah,
if we get more to add to those kind of team ups and stuff like that, because it kind of makes you think like, oh, Dane Whitman will probably be a part of the Blade movie, I would assume. If he ends up, if we take a step further, instead of seeing his voice, we see actually Blade, Mahershala Ali as Blade in this, like, oh, I wonder if he's kind of making a team to help him for whatever threat or the antagonist ends up being for his movie, because we don't really know anything about it other than it's coming eventually and Mahershala Ali's Blade. That's all we know. We know some of like the kind of the writers and directors, I think, but other than that, we don't know much, which is fine.
yeah. I'm game for all that, man. I really am.
Oh, yeah, dude, yeah, totally. So before we get into the Moon Knight breakdown, a few things I want to bring up. Again, big shout out to Spreaker. Spreaker does help indie podcasts, listeners like myself, monetize your podcast. So if you're an indie podcast looking to monetize your podcast, go to Spreaker.com for more information on that. Love Spreaker. They're great. And if you're new to the podcast, thanks for coming. Thanks for checking us out. And if you're returning, the love is always there. I love the people that listen to this podcast, talk to me about it, interact in the group, in the Discord. It's amazing. It's truly, truly amazing. I'm very happy and grateful to have that type of community that surrounds this podcast. But if you are new to this, go in the description, join those communities, have fun with everyone else. There's a few people that my friend tagged in Twitter on Twitter, and they're like, "Oh my god, this I wish I knew about this kind of show earlier. This is like the perfect worlds combining. It's heavy music, pop culture, all in one. It's the two things I love, and I love bringing them together. And like we've talked about before, I got an early access to Moon Knight. I am getting early access to some stuff from HBO. I will not reveal what show it is, but I should be getting screeners for that on Monday. So I should have a non spoiler review for that sometime next week. Depending on, I don't know how many episodes it is or if it's the whole season. I have no idea. We'll see how it goes. I'm working on some other early screeners and stuff like that. So the more people interact with the show, the more people that subscribe to the show, rate and review the show, the more I get to do stuff like this. So, and that helps stuff grow. And then you're kind of involved in this awesome big community and everyone's happy, So do that stuff. And if you're listening to this, watching this, take a little screenshot on your phone, share on your Instagram stories, tell your friend about it. I'm sure there's a ton of friends that love pop culture and maybe don't fully understand all of it, which is fine. And I can help guide you through that, That's it. And another thing before that, we'll go into our now watching section. Just talk about the things we've watched in the past week. Mike, start us off. What have you been watching besides Moon Knight, obviously?
I'm a very busy person, as you know, when we try to schedule
It's
out these
true.
interviews. Uh, I've been watching. So, for those of you who don't know, I wrestle professionally. I'm on the independents now. So, I was on Beyond's Wrestling Open on Thursday, which was really cool. So, I watched a lot of that show from backstage. I know it's not
Hell yeah.
exactly the same, but that's
It
mostly what,
works.
like, honestly, with the exception of the Moon Knight show, which I keep up on consistently, I watch NBA basketball and I watch pro wrestling, and that's it.
It's
So I've
fair.
been watching. I have a ladder match coming up in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey, on April 30th. If anyone's listening and interested, so I've been watching a lot of ladder matches. So I watched a ladder match
Oh
between
yeah.
Rob Van Dam and Christian from Raw in it was September 29th,
Wow.
2003. It was really good, and I got some cool ideas from that. So that's
That's
kind of the wave
awesome.
I'm on right now. So if anyone has any good ladder matches, send them to me. I'm gonna watch them.
It's recent, but that Cody Sammy Guevara ladder match was good
Yes,
shit.
that was very good.
And I think it could lend to your style a little bit.
Yeah, except
A little
when like
bit.
if Sammy tries to jump off and give me a cutter, I'm just gonna Muhammad Ali out of the way.
Yeah.
Just let him go. Bye.
That spot was nuts. Like
Yeah, that
so
was
nuts.
crazy.
That was a
Yeah,
crazy match. Good last match for Cody in AEW, I guess.
yeah, absolutely.
We'll give it to him. Yeah, I've just almost done with Succession. I'm on season 3. I'm
Okay.
like halfway through. Show's wild. If anyone hasn't, I mean, it's an insanely popular show, so I'm sure most people have. I'm kind of late to the party in that one, but that show is nutty. I love it. I love it so much. Sam and I, we and a few of our friends, we went and saw Secrets of Dumbledore, the new Fantastic Beasts movie in theaters
Okay.
on Thursday, and I really liked it. I know people really kind of shit on the Fantastic Beasts kind of thing, and I know there's kind of the whole J.K. Rowling of it all. Yeah, she sucks, but there's other people involved besides her that make these movies, and Harry Potter is such a big thing to Sam and her best friend Ava that I don't know. It's like it sucks what she said, but I mean, spoilers in this. It's not really a spoiler for the, but Dumbledore is gay, and the whole point of this movie is like the kind of him fighting with like love and doing what's right because the big villain of it all is his ex-lover basically. So I mean, yeah, she says some shit about trans people, which I do not agree with. I do not condone. It sucks. I hate that shit. There's no uncalled for. But she did write a story about one of the most important characters in her lore being openly gay. So I don't know. It's like a weird thing. If you don't support it, I fully get it. No qualms with you. It's just if people do still watch it, I don't think they should be condemned for it. Because again, there
Yeah.
still is so many
Yeah.
other people that profit, make money, and it's part of their life. It's part of their jobs. And having Jude Law and Mads Mikkelsen as like the center points of this movie, they're two incredible, I think both award-winning actors, and I don't think they deserve to be fully, thrown to the wayside over someone else's actions. I don't think that's quite fair. But again, if you don't support it, fully understand.
I agree.
But I thought the movie was cool. It's probably one of the best ones, and I've liked all of them. A lot of people hated the second one, Crimes of Grindelwald. I like that one, though. Kind of revisiting to get caught up to this one, I was like, yeah, I guess it was a little confusing, and I forgot some of the shit that happened, which isn't really a good sign either. But it's not like even the story is like breathtaking. But you go back to Hogwarts, which the last one ends in Hogwarts. So again, I'm not going to give any spoiler things away because there's a lot of cool moments in it. And it's there's just this thing about like returning back to Hogwarts, and you kind of feel the love and the breath from the original
Yeah.
movies come into that and stuff like that. And I don't know, there was just a lot of touching moments. Some of the stuff definitely didn't feel like it fit in, like Ezra Miller's character, which he obviously has a lot of controversy with him right now too.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, and that's not no knock at his acting. It's just his character was just there. I don't know, and then, like I'm neither here nor there on his situation. Like if he did something, it seems like he truly did something that's a mistake. He should pay the punishment for that mistake and kind of maybe get some help because it seems like these weird situations with them keep coming up. So maybe the dude just needs some help and people can change and get better. So I
Yeah.
hope he does that. And it's just his character there, and even the Johnny Depp. This movie is kind of shrouded by a lot of controversy, to be honest. I'm kind of wondering how it'll do at the box office. I think the Thursday previews are pretty strong, so I think it'll still do well. But I don't think Johnny Depp would have done as good as a job as Mads Mikkelsen. Not that Johnny Depp isn't a great actor, because he is a great actor. It's just his version of the character was very kind of over the top, and the look was kind of over the top as well. And Mads Mikkelsen just played this kind of like almost kind of like an Arthur Harrow type character where he's kind of almost making this like cult following of himself, and he's definitely not a good person, but you still kind of like him and understand where he's coming from, and you understand why people kind of flock to him and follow him. But yeah, it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it. If you like the Wizarding World, I would say give it a shot. Why not?
Heard.
All right, but let's get into Moon Knight episode 3.
Let's do it.
There's a lot to go through in this episode.
Yeah.
So episode 3 kicks off with Layla, which I thought this was cool. You get a little more perspective into just Layla solo because we just really got introduced fully to her character in the last episode. And you see her they kind of do it in this way where the show does this very well is you're like, what the fuck is going on? But then they quickly explain it. But she's explaining the whole situation of what's been going on, and you find out it's of one of her dad's old friends, and they're helping her make a fake passport so she can go to Egypt, which is her home, so she can kind of meet up with Marc, and because she knows what's going on, she's like fully in tune. You didn't need some dialogue explaining hey Layla, I'm going to Egypt. You know, like she saw
Yeah,
Harrow go with the scarab. She knows what's up. She's not stupid. She's very, very smart, as we've seen.
yeah,
And then you go to Arthur Harrow at the tomb. They found the tomb, and then one of his guys informs us that, hey, Marc is here. He's looking for the tomb as well. And he's like, ah, whatever, I don't care. Like, we got this. We're here, whatever. And then we go to Marc, and Marc sees three guys that I can't remember if it's the three guys that like attack him or he's hunting them down, but he sees that they're affiliated with Harrow, and he's trying to get them, trying to question them and trying to get some info to how the fuck to find this tomb because he doesn't know where the fuck it is.
yeah,
Just trying to find it, and it's this awesome fight scene with these three goons that you end up seeing a bunch of like twists and turns within it. The first time you see a reflection and Steven's like, hey, stop. And you even see Marc kind of hold back a little bit too. You kind of see the
yeah,
Steven's kind of changing him. Like he kind of open hand smacks the dude instead of full on punching him in the face. And it switches and he wakes up in a cab. And he's like, where am I going? And then, you know, the cab's confused that he doesn't have an accent anymore or not speaking the language. Cause again, Steven is fully versed in Egyptian lore. It makes
yeah,
sense that he could speak their native language and communicate and everything like that. And obviously he has a completely different accent. And he's like, where are we going? He's like, oh, the airport. So he gets out, he sees the goons again, and he ends up fighting with them. And that's the same thing. Steven kind of intervenes, like, hey, don't kill them. And that ends up getting him knocked out. And then he wakes up again. I love these switchbacks. He ends up
yeah.
waking
They're great.
again, straight up killing a dude, stabbing a guy, and he
Just,
falls off dead.
yeah,
Turns, sees the other guy's dead. And he's like, Steven, what'd you do? He's like, I didn't do it, which is a very big indication that we were going to get the third personality, Jake Lockley from the comics,
yes,
who, funny enough, was a cab driver, and then he woke up in a cab. That was
yes.
that was kind of cool. But what do you think about this kind of opening scene of seeing like these three different perspectives, like back to back to back, right in the beginning?
So I thought that was very cool. I'm glad they didn't let the whole like switching and like not knowing what's going on like kind of leave in the first episode, like how we had
Right.
between Marc and Steven. I like how they're bringing that back for hopefully Jake. We can assume it's Jake or a character
Yeah.
that would represent Jake. And yeah, it was cool. It's interesting to me that if they go in that direction, they're going to make Jake even more like violent than Marc,
Yeah.
which is interesting because Marc was always like the end of that
Right.
spectrum. And I that scene where I don't know, Steven frustrates me a ton, which I know is the point, but
Yes.
like if he's like, no, Marc, choose peace. Like, okay, these guys are gonna stab you to death and kill
Right.
you.
Right.
Like, what do you want out of here? And we'll get to it later in the episode where he botches another thing for me. But yeah, the part where he had the kid by the tie over the
Yes.
edge of that cliff, that that was a bummer. Like, it was a really cool scene, but I was like, damn, that hits. So
Cults, man.
uh, yeah, cults, they'll get you. They drank the Kool Aid. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
love this scene. It was super fun. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying all the fight scenes as well, especially that they're keeping this dynamic.
Yeah, the action's been pretty brutal. Not that it's like Daredevil brutal or anything like that, but I do
Yeah,
like how you kind of get thrown into these ultra violent situations and it kind of lets them have the blood without showing the blood, which I'll talk more about later and then the fight scene near the end. That kind of is one of the things I'm like, I kind of wish they did some stuff with this. But um yeah, it's awesome. And exactly what you're saying, the part with the tie, Khonshu tells the guy to take him to the cliff, he'll talk, and then he's like, in the name of Ammut or whatever, and just fucking falls to his death. Like,
yeah,
brutal, dude. Looks
yeah,
so brutal. Also, seeing Khonshu in broad daylight like this, like fully, because you kind of saw glimpses of him in like the first episode when they were kind of
yeah,
leaning into that horror vibe, but seeing him like fully in broad daylight was pretty fucking dope. Like he
yeah,
looks incredible. He looks amazing. Very very stellar job on the VFX for the team
yes.
that developed Khonshu.
So this is
And
a sidebar. But
yes,
have you seen the Khonshu figures that they're coming out with?
the pop figures. Oh my
Yes,
god.
they're so cool.
I need that one, the Mr. Knight one, and the Moon Knight one. I need them. I need
Absolutely.
them. Yeah, I need them.
Yeah,
They're great, and I can't wait to buy them. I know they're
yeah,
on
same.
pre-order online. I'm kind of waiting to see because I'm sure they'll come to Hot Topic, and I know there's some like Walmart glow in the dark
Yeah,
um, variants or whatever that are coming to Walmart exclusives. But yeah, I saw the Khonshu one. I was like, oh, that looks amazing. Because I
Yeah,
was like, I know it's coming. I can't wait to see what it looks like. And then it came out, and I was like, yes,
so
that
cool.
looks fucking dope. And also, Twitter people, they finally made the Twitter hashtag emoji for Khonshu. Finally,
Oh
so
yes, I didn't even see
it's
that. I
there.
gotta check that
It's,
out.
yeah, it's there. If you hashtag Khonshu, it comes up. I was waiting for it. I was like, everyone else has one. Mr. Knight one has, Moon Knight has one. Like Layla has one. Arthur Harrow has one. I was like, when the fuck they gonna get a Khonshu one? And then of course it happened. It's like, well, spoke too soon. Should have been patient. Should have been
Excellent.
patient. And then Khonshu was having this conversation with Marc, and they're like, well, we got no information there. Like, what are we gonna do? And they decide, like, oh, let's call to the gods and kind of throw Arthur Harrow under the bus. Be like, yo, stop this
Yeah,
motherfucker, you know? And Khonshu fucking makes an eclipse, and that signals the gods, which was pretty fucking dope to see. It was cool.
yeah,
And it definitely is a good precursor to what we see at the end of the episode too, which is fucking
yes,
bananas, which we'll obviously get to. And that ends up leading to like a pathway opening up out of nowhere, which is cool. This like the god stuff and the supernatural stuff they've been leading in this series in particular are fucking awesome. And I'm very stoked on it. And then he goes and ends up being inside the pyramid of Giza, which is, like obviously like one of the great pyramids. And it's this awesome set piece where they meet with the avatars of the Ennead, which Steven does bring up earlier on. And he kind of alludes to this thing where he's like, oh, there's only 7 on this poster. And technically, I think there would be only 7 because there was 5 of them on the council. And then there's Arthur, who's Ammut's, which may have been one of the 9. And then Khonshu was probably one of the 9 too, because he was banished as well. And we know Ammut was already turned to stone and completely kicked out too. So it's kind of wondering, it's like, what happened to those gods? Did they give them the same punishment they gave to Ammut? Or been this big theory going around, which I actually really like, is that Thor Love and Thunder is introducing Gore the God Butcher, who very literally kills gods. And these are gods. Like
oh yeah,
maybe he took out some of these motherfuckers, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
That's a
But
good plug-in. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, I did not think of it either. I watched a video and they brought that up, and I was like, oh wow, that's a really good point, because I would not have thought of that, but that makes a lot of sense. And it is very interesting to see, because he does, in the comics, Gore takes out a fucking ton of gods. So I'm wondering how many gods he's going to kill, or like how they're going to show that. Very interested in that, because that run is really cool. It's Jason Aaron's Thor run, which seems like this movie's taking from both of the big stories, one being the Jane Foster one and one being the Gore one, because those are 2 different stories pretty much, and they're kind of amalgamating them together, which is what the MCU does, which I am totally
Yeah,
fine with. But basically, and I loved the acting in this episode in particular from Oscar Isaac is fucking unreal.
yeah,
Because like Khonshu kind of possessing his body and talking for him, and it like seems like it's like bursting out of him, and he seems like exhausted, like in between him talking and stuff like that. I thought it was just like incredible how he like acts like this. And there's another scene later that we'll talk about that I'm just like, dude, this dude is fucking incredible. Like he is amazing.
yeah,
And he's pretty much like, hey, Arthur Harrow's trying to unleash Ammut onto the world. We need to stop him. And they're like, there's no proof. But to me, I'm like, they're fucking digging a site like in
yeah,
the same city you're in. Like, what?
yeah,
Go check it out. The fact that they didn't do their due diligence, check that out, is kind of silly to me. But whatever, like I'll look past it. It's
yeah.
kind of like
Like what?
it's like a minor gripe, but
Like
yeah,
what
it's
good
like
are these gods? Like they have zero perception, zero like
no,
knowledge of anything going on around. Like they're just like, nah, no proof. Like you said, I was very very frustrated in this moment, and I'm still frustrated now. I'm just like, I understand there needs to be a plot going forward, so they need to not notice, but
yeah, that part was a little silly. They
yeah,
do kind of I guess they kind of back it up with Harrow kind of manipulating them and throwing Khonshu under the bus, I guess. But like even still, I would kind of go to check it out and make sure,
yeah.
because it seems like
So
releasing
let's
Ammon to
see.
the Earth is not something that they want to happen, you know.
No, no.
So I would kind of do whatever it takes to kind of double check some shit, fact check some stuff, but plot's gonna plot.
Yes.
um And they do mention, I do love how they mention that uh Khonshu like accuses them of abandoning humanity, and they're like, no, humanity abandoned us, which, you know, like makes sense. Like, you know, people haven't believed in the Egyptian gods in like centuries at this point. So
Yeah,
that part does kind of add up, and that was kind of cool to see. And then Harrow comes in because they were like, bring in the accused, and he's like, this man is broken. You know, he doesn't even know his name. He has who knows how many personalities he has, which again is alluding to a possible other personality that we talked about earlier.
yeah,
And Khonshu gets super upset and goes to attack him, but they stop him and they're like, hey, no violence in this. It's like a sacred kind of meeting and place. Like, none of that
yeah.
shit. Get out of here. But, you know, it's cool to see Harrow's manipulative side and how he can kind of just like talk his way into anything. But again, the whole like, you could have just, you know, like went 2 miles down the road and seen that they are trying to do
Yeah,
it. You know,
right.
that was a little ridiculous. And near the end here, the avatar for Hathor, Yatzil, pulls Marc aside, alludes to their relationship they had, Khonshu and Hathor, which is the goddess of music and love, and kind of gives them some info to help, and said that there's a map to Ammut's tomb hidden in Senfu's sarcophagus. So, and then now they have this info to kind of find out where it is. And that's where Marc meets back up with Layla. She's kind of pissed and like, but yo, let me help you. Like, why are you closing me out? But let me help you. Let's go find this together. And she knows a dealer that is in possession of this sarcophagus. So they head out there and they have this nice conversation on the boat. And this scene looks absolutely gorgeous. Like the
Oh
purple
yeah.
lighting, like it looks incredible. But I guess before we get into this, is there anything else you want to add to the whole God trial scene other than being frustrated at the same thing I was frustrated at?
No, the frustration was like the overwhelming emotion in this scene. So that was like my big takeaway from it. Like it was definitely the part that it led to, like that we're about to talk about, I thought was so cool, like so nice to look at, so well, like the action, the frustration, the plot, all that. But we'll get into that. But frustration, big time in the scene, and but it
It's
did
fair.
serve the purpose, like you said, of Arthur Harrow, like showing that he's a just a manipulative prick. Like he's just such a like a conniving little dude. And
Yeah, Coltsman,
he's
like you
gonna
said.
he's gonna get his. I'm here
I
for it.
I think so. I think you will get
Yeah,
his eventually. And like I said, they take the boat to a location that is owned by a collector named Antoine Mogar, which is played by Gaspard Uliel. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but that's the guy who unfortunately passed away a few months ago in a
yeah,
skiing accident. There's the in memoriam at the end of this episode as well. Um, and he does reference Madripoor to Layla, which is fucking dope. Which, if you watch Falcon the Winter Soldier, there was a whole episode of Madripoor. Seems where Sharon Carter's the power broker has taken power over there, and don't think they reference it. No, they didn't reference it in Shang-Chi, but I thought they might go there in Shang-Chi, but they didn't. But
yeah,
Madripoor is a really cool location. I love that they added that, and it's not like a force. It wasn't like a forced kind of thing to be like MCU. It was just like a nice little thing that would make sense if they live in this like mercenary, you know, illegal collector type world. This would totally make sense because we found out that Sharon Carter was selling a lot of this shit on the black market in Madripoor. So it all adds up. It fits in with it. I like that they mentioned that. And they go over to look at Senfu's sarcophagus, and they find out that there's all these like pieces of paper that in the reflections to you, it's like, hey, it's a puzzle. You got to put it together, and that'll give us the map. And I do love that they're showing the smart side of Steven. Like obviously
yeah,
he's kind of a dweeb, but they're showing that he is more than just being a blubbering dweeb. Like he is actually, and I alluded to this in our last episode. Like we get a lot more development for Steven in this episode, and you know you see he's like a smart guy and he's trying to figure it out. Layla's trying to distract Mogart, but
yeah,
of course Marc gets caught because they're kind of in this wide open space, and he's just shuffling through shit in a fucking casket and
yeah.
like in a sarcophagus. Like it's not easy to hide,
No.
and that winds up in a fucking dope ass action sequence
Oh
with
my
Moon
God,
Knight.
this is so good.
Arthur Harrow destroys the map, or well, destroys most of it, and he does show up, and that kind of adds to more of the marketing caught. Harrow always showing up. He's always seems to be one step ahead of these motherfuckers.
Yeah,
But this fight scene with Moon Knight, whew, it was awesome. It was
yeah,
great. And in the middle, we do see Steven kind of take control and the Mr. Knight come up, and that transformation was really cool. I like that. And then immediately he gets stabbed like multiple times with, and he's just like, "Take control, Mark, take control," which I thought that was cool.
that was
And
hilarious.
I do hope we end up seeing, we kind of see it kind of, and I think it will kind of evolve into this relationship where the personalities can kind of work together, and like maybe we'll see like Mark like training Steven and stuff like that to become a better fighter and shit like that.
Yeah,
So when he does have control, like he can still hold his own. I do hope they do go to that and evolve the Mr. Knight character, which I think they already did a little bit in this episode. But the one thing I was mentioning about blood and stuff, it's like I get he's like a supernatural and he's in a supernatural costume, but him being like stabbed with stuff and there's like nothing coming out was kind of weird looking to me
yeah,
personally.
yeah,
Um, the action with him like just throwing the fucking moonerangs or whatever the fuck they're
yeah,
called and shit like that, and you not really seeing blood. Most of it was kind of far away, so that I can completely kind of ignore. But it
yeah.
was more of the jarring, like the dude is impaled like 5 times and there's like
Nothing.
nothing. It
Yeah,
would have been so much cooler if and I know it's kind of hard with the ratings. I think they could have given away if they took the leap and made it TVMA and just had a couple like super bloody scenes, because obviously they can show blood and stuff like
yeah,
that. If they show just him getting stabbed and then immediately healing after when he like takes him out, like I thought that would have added a little more extra intensity to the fight. I mean, like I said,
absolutely.
I loved the fight. I thought it was awesome, well choreographed. It looked a lot different than stuff we've seen before, which is very, very hard because we've seen so much action and fight scenes in our lifetime. Like we've seen a million of them at this point, but this one still was, it was very interesting and cool. And just the way he's like flipping around and shit like that. Like I loved it. I like seeing Moon Knight do his thing. It's
Yeah,
awesome. It's just that one thing. That one thing. If I had a little gripe with that, I would have loved to seen the extra brutality with that.
yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
I agree with you. It would have been nice to see the extra brutality. It didn't take as much away for me as it did for you, it seems. But
Mm,
I just thought like Moon Knight is in in the comic books, he's like one of the best hand-to-hand fighters, if not the
right.
best, depending on who you ask. And it's nice getting to see him like properly represented in that manner because there are a lot of like hand-to-hand fight scenes in the MCU, especially like in the Avengers movies. I felt like they were super dumbed down. Obviously, like Daredevil was awesome because they really like allowed him to like just kind of be that dude and be like that brutal
Oh yeah.
like street level type of hero. So I'm really glad that Moon Knight's like hand to hand fighting is properly represented because like that's a big part of the character that I enjoy. Like that he's
For
just
sure.
such like an unpredictable maniac in these situations. So
Yeah.
uh and like they show the vulnerability of him like getting caught, like the numbers game catching up with him, but him being able to work himself out of it. I just thought it was really good. Like, it had added really good drama to the fight scene, and uh, it made me appreciate that much more when again he worked himself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it was like a minor gripe. It just kind of like I
Yeah,
remember watching it and being like, that looks kind of weird. Because even in like Captain America Winter Soldier and like Falcon and Winter Soldier also have some of the best like fight choreography, other than like Shang-Chi.
yeah.
Shang-Chi has like unbelievable fight
Oh my god, yeah,
choreography for sure. Like that shit is unbelievable. But those two properties, especially Captain America the Winter Soldier, the fight choreography in that shit is like bonkers. It's so fucking
yeah,
good. And but they show like blood in Falcon the Winter Soldier. Like people, people get shot and bleed out and shit like that. It's like it was just the one thing I was like, and I get it that you can kind of get away with it because he's like, he's not fucking human. He's especially in the suit. He's like got this crazy protective suit.
yeah,
It's just I wish just that little bit more would have been. It just looked like a cartoon almost or something. It was just
yeah,
kind of like just the fact that it was just stakes and there was nothing. It just looked a little weird. Um, but Mark ends up seeing Layla in trouble and then like freaks out and takes out even more people, including Mogar, who was riding a fucking horse and just throws a fucking stabs him, and you see him like fade off into the fog. You can kind of
yep,
assume that he might have died, but you don't really know because you kind of see him go into the fog. So we might see him return later on. because it seems like he was kind of making a deal with Harrow earlier on. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
have to wait and see with that. If not, it's kind of fine how it ended the way it ended. It gave us this awesome set piece, and they kind of just moved on from it. But they took the pieces of the map and you know got the fuck out of there, and they head out into like the middle of the desert, and you kind of see the rift that is forming between Marc and Layla, and she's like, "Hey, we need Steven to figure this out," because you can see that Marc just he's obviously a great fighter, not great at solving maps.
No.
Ancient Egyptian puzzle maps. Not very good at
Yeah.
it. So begrudgingly he takes the mirror off the truck, the Jeep, and changes. And this scene of you just see him seamlessly like just change his posture and his mannerisms to go to Steven is amazing. And I
Yeah.
really loved this scene of Steven easily forming the map because again, it adds more to his character. He's not just this annoying, bumbling dweeb. Like he
Yeah.
is insanely smart and intelligent, and he does have something that adds to his multiple personalities. Like he perfectly adds to. He complements Marc in a way that stuff that Marc can't do, Steven can do, and I that's what I loved about this and him seeing figure that out. Have you been liking that stuff, or you still find Steven
Yeah.
completely annoying?
No, it it was so like because yeah, like we mentioned in the previous conversation, Steven was very annoying to me at first. I stuck around for him because he's our boy, but Steven was definitely frustrating me. And then especially in the previous scene where uh him and Marc are bickering over the sarcophagus, and they're on limited time and they're just taking this time to argue instead of solve the problem when their lives are in actual danger. I was like, dude,
Yeah,
come on, like get your stuff together. But yeah, Steven's knowledge of ancient Egypt and everything to do with ancient Egypt is like super endearing to his character, and getting to see like the redemption in terms of his like him showing his value and showing like, hey, I'm not, again, like you said, not just this goofy guy. Like I can help
right.
you solve all these things. Like it was super cool, and it definitely made me appreciate Steven a ton more.
Good. Then I guess mission accomplished for them. And
Yes.
you kind of see that Layla seems to be falling for Steven, which is very interesting
Yeah.
because they're the
Yeah.
same person technically. It's like that's kind of like a wild scenario, and it's something super
Yeah.
crazy, and it adds more to like them embracing the whole DID of it all in this because people who have DID date, and that's something that their partners have to deal with. Like that's real shit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, and I could personally not even like quantifiably imagine like how insane that would be and like how tough that could be.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see that these relationships become even more complicated and more fleshed out. Like I love the way they're doing that with these characters. I think it's super well done. Um, but after Steven made the star map, they realized that it has to be it gives away the coordinates, but it has to be the exact night that the map was made. And obviously, the stars move, and they're never the same every night. They're completely different. And Khonshu pretty much comes out, and I like seeing this kind of like softer side of Khonshu in a way too,
Yeah.
because we're kind of just seeing it as this like overwhelming force, and this dude who just wants vengeance and everything like that, and thinking his way is the only way, and everything like that. And you kind of see him like take a step back and be like, I remember that night. I remember every night. And we see this unbelievable scene where
Oh my God.
Mr. Knight and Khonshu rewind the fucking sky, like rewind
Yeah.
space. Like I don't know the actual ramifications of it all because it seems like the Earth stood still in time. And you even see people reacting to it. You see like a whole layout of like the city of Egypt. And I saw a lot of people like from Egypt being like, I'm so glad they portrayed Egypt in a way that's actually relevant to what it looks like and not just in this like sandy yellow frame. Like they actually portrayed Egypt in a way, and it wasn't even filmed in Egypt. It was filmed in like Budapest, I think. But the way that they represented Egypt, they represented it very correctly, which makes sense because some of the directors I think are from descent of Egypt. So I thought that was really cool. But this scene was fucking amazing. I remember seeing the one clip from the trailer and I was like, I wonder what the fuck that would be. And when this came up, I was like, I never would have thought of this, but it was so cool to see the sky rewind.
Yeah,
Like, insane, dude. And New Rockstar was talking about like the ramifications of it, like, but they kept saying like, oh, what happened to Earth? But it seemed like Earth stood completely in time. I don't think it
yeah,
affected Earth. And I think that the gods just kind of undo it, and that's how it goes back after they finally end up getting the coordinates. And as this is happening, he kind of says like, I'm gonna be like, I'm fucked. Like, the gods are going to put me in stone, which you see them doing the ceremony of him getting put in stone, but they just get it to the right night in the nick of time. Layla finds the coordinates to Ammut's tomb, and then we see Khonshu wind up in stone. But what did you think of
ah,
this scene? Because, dude, I'm still blown away by this scene. I thought it was amazing.
yeah. The scene was breathtaking. Just visually, it was amazing. It was like super. I can't overstate how like visually impressive it was to watch.
Yeah,
And like in addition to that, like them casting our boy Khonshu into stone broke my heart. It bothered me. It bothered me a ton because like you said, they finally got to show like him not being like a temperamental baby all the time, and then right after
right.
that happens, he's done. They cast him off, and I'm like, man. And I went right to like what implications does this have for Marc and Steven in their crime solving escapades? Like
Yeah,
I don't know where they go from here, but the
yeah. Because
scene itself was breathtaking.
yes, I completely agree, and I will say you have to imagine they don't have Moon Knight right now.
Yeah,
You know, they don't have Moon Knight, so I'm gonna say there's not Moon Knight in the next episode.
yeah,
A little bit of a spoiler, but I think
ah, yeah,
you'd kind of you've kind of figured
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I mean, I do think he's going to return. Obviously, like, I saw clips that were in episode 4 in the
yeah,
teaser, so I was like, he's definitely going to come back. But again, can't wait to talk about episode 4. But scene is amazing. And then we see, like, the gods are talking to Arthur Harrow, and they're like, yeah, he left us no other choice. And he kind of asks, he's like, hey, he he hear me? And he's like, I don't really know, but I would assume yes. And he pretty much just says, hey, um you brought this upon yourself. And he's like, I'm going to succeed what you didn't, and when I do, just know that your torment gave me the power to do this, which I thought added another awesome layer to Arthur Harrow. Ethan Hawke is murdering
yeah,
this fucking role.
yeah,
And it seems like next episode, obviously, we're gonna get Marc and Layla heading to the tomb, while also Arthur's also trying to get to the tomb too. And
yeah,
we'll see where it goes from there.
yeah,
Yeah. So overall thoughts on this episode? It seems like we kind of both had the same few minor gripes to it, but
yeah,
overall, I think this show is dope as hell. And
yeah. I'm enjoying the ride, man. Like again, we spoke a bunch before the show actually like started. We before we there were teasers or anything, and my sentiment was just that if the show's not like the worst thing I've ever seen, I'm gonna have a good time. And the
right,
fact that like it's actually so good and it's exceeding my expectations, and yeah, like it's not every character is perfect, not every like story is kind of set up the same, not every dynamic is the same, but it's so good. It's such a fun ride, and like this episode is a great example of how we can have so many like aspects in like this fairly short amount of time. Like we have the
right.
crime solving aspect, then we have like a super cool violent fight scene, and then we have this super dramatic, breathtaking visual at the end. Like the fact that this show can take me to all those places has been really fun to enjoy.
Yeah, not to mention like a council trial with the Egyptian gods in the middle of that too.
Yeah,
Like
exactly. Yeah,
there was a lot in this episode, and
yes,
I can see it being overwhelming in a way, but I never once where I was like, where's what? I wasn't confused. I wasn't overwhelmed.
no,
It just kind of like made the runtime seem a little short, which is not a
yeah,
bad thing. It just kind of flies by, and you're like, fuck, what's
yeah,
happening next?
yes,
They've been leaving you on good spots where you're like, I want the next episode right now. I need it.
yeah. No,
Well, hell
it's
yeah,
I
man. What else? What else you have going on that you want to plug for the people? I know you mentioned
uh
the one the New Jersey ladder match, but what else? What else you got going on?
yeah. So the last 2 weeks I've been wrestling for promotion Beyond Wrestling Open, which you can watch on IWTV, which is an app that lets you watch a ton of independent wrestling shows. I am going to be on a show that drops next week at 7 p.m. that we had previously filmed. And then going forward, I will be on that as many Thursdays as I can up in Worcester for Beyond's Wrestling Open. So I definitely want people to check that out. Let me know what they think of that.
It's in Worcester?
It's in Worcester, Massachusetts at
Oh,
the
I thought
White
they did
Eagle
all
Hall.
their shit. I thought they did all their shit in didn't they used to do their stuff in Rhode Island? Or did they move?
They've bounced around a little bit,
Bounced around?
but right now we are doing Wrestling Open out of the White Eagle Hall, which has been an
Nice.
awesome venue. I really enjoy being there.
That's
And
cool.
in addition to that, I have most of my bookings pretty much listed out on the site, but upcoming, I have April 23rd in Rome, New York. For anyone that is upstate New York local, I'll be defending the Immortal Heavyweight Championship in a match against Greek God Papadon and Jay Freddy. And then the weekend after, I'm doing 4 in a row. I got my Thursday date. Friday, I will be in Northampton, Massachusetts for a Pro Wrestling Grind. Saturday, I'll be in New Jersey for an Invictus Pro.
Yes.
And then Sunday, I have a taping in Rochester, New York that I'm really excited for. So got a lot of stuff coming up. If you want more details on my social media at Mike Skyros on everything, I keep pretty up to date with that.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah, Sam's off next Saturday, so I feel like it's going to be very hard for me to convince her to go to a wrestling show, but I'm going to try my best.
I understand.
She doesn't mind live wrestling as much as watching it on TV. So
yeah,
maybe I can talk her into it. It's close, so
yeah.
it's not like we're
I'll go
driving
buy
hours.
more Moon Knight merch at the Hot Topic if that helps.
It might.
Yeah.
It might help. But hell yeah, man. Very stoked for next week to talk about episode 4 and to see how the show concludes. I'm very excited to see how it concludes because I for one have no idea. So, and I think after next episode you'll probably be feeling the same.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
But I do think you're going to be very happy with what they do. I was like, I cannot believe they're doing this, but fuck yeah. I'm stoked.
Hell yeah, man. It's so good.
Awesome, man. Any last words you want to add before we get out of here?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and everyone check out my social media for wrestling related things that I'm doing.
It's always reverse, so I was like, I don't know which way it goes. But yes, at Mike Skyros, if you're listening to this on audio, if you're watching this, it's right on the fucking screen. You can see it. Type it in your phone. Follow the man. I know. Like 1 or 2 people followed you from the podcast, so I like that. That's dope.
They did. I appreciate that a ton.
Yeah, I like to see that stuff. I like to see the crossover happen. That's what I like.
Yeah,
that's what I like. But all right, everyone, we'll see you next week, and hopefully, I'll be putting out some non-spoiler stuff before we get to the episode 4 after show. But until next time, see you later, nerds.